Right now, we are going to get into an interview with Johnathon Valls, but this is going to be taken by my good friend Scaffy. You might be thinking, wait, isn't Scaffy in Japan? This was actually this was an interview that we had pre-recorded before. This is a powerful testimony about how it is that you can give your life to God and He will make provision for you if you're willing to live up to the things that He tells you to do. So, hey, listen into this one. It will be a blessing to you. Now, I've switched over to Scaffy and Johnathon Valls.
Today, we're going to have a conversation with Johnathon Valls, my friend. He's a former family barrister, and he's going to be sharing a little bit of his faith journey with us. Welcome to the studio, Johnathon. It's great to have you here with us, finally.
Great to be here with you, and I'm very excited about it.
Oh, thank you so much. Johnathon, I wanted you to share with our radio friends a little bit of your journey of faith. You were a lawyer or a barrister. You studied law?
Yes.
Imagining, where did you study law? Was it in Australia? Was it abroad in some other country?
Yeah. No, I studied law in Spain, in the north of Spain, in a village population that it calls Pamplona. It's a city in the north of Spain, and there's a university of the Catholic Church, the Opus Dei University of Law.
Okay.
So there is where I studied law.
So just one step prior to that. So what made you choose law? Because you know how when we get to this age of having to choose a course or a degree or the career to follow, it can be all very confusing.
That's right.
What made you decide, you know what, I am going to follow the path of law? Was there any experience in your life that cemented that desire in your heart? Tell us a little bit about that decision.
Since I was little, I always hate injustices. And I always wanted to put the things in right. And my desire was to be a lawyer, to help people to defend their rights. And that is something that continue in my life, in my different approaches to different careers. But definitely my aim always wanted to be helping others to find their rights and to defend themselves and for them to realize that there is still justice in the world.
Very good. And tell me a little bit just about your upbringing and your family, the family that you grew up with. Were you Christians? Tell me a little bit about that side of your life.
Yeah, I was born in a middle-class family in Barcelona. My parents were literature evangelists, people selling books, health books to have their gain and sharing the gospel. And then we moved to Mallorca, and we opened churches there as a family. And then going to Pamplona, the same thing. And that's why I reached the opportunity to study in that university. The family always, we wanted to honor God with everything that we did, and to fulfill the mission of every Christian, which is to share the good news of Jesus. That was the aim.
So it sounds like you had a family that was very involved with Jesus, a family of faith, a family that wanted to prioritize God. God was a first priority. To honor Him was something very important to your family, and that's something that your parents passed on to you very, very early on.
That's correct.
So now so you got into this university, and I do not know how the process was. Is it in Spain, you can just choose any university and get in there, or is it a little bit hard to get? Tell me a little bit about that selection process, and then your first impression when you first started to attend classes there.
Correct. In Spain, we have the same like here in Australia. There is a selection exam that you have to pass. Once you pass that exam, that university requires another exam. And in that exam, we were 2,400 people.
Okay.
And
for how many spots, roughly?
For 400 spots.
Wow.
So
2,400 students competing for 400 places.
That's correct.
It was fairly competitive.
It is still today. And then the way they get the 400 is going to the highest mark and going down up to 400, and they cut there. So I had the privilege to be part of those 400. The second year of the University of Law, it's cut in half as well. So we continue second year, only 200 people. At the end of the 5 years, because over there was 5 years, probably you end up around 100 and something.
Okay,
That's the total.
The process of sifting, if I can use that word, continues throughout the course.
Yes.
And I imagine that it would be a very demanding course, as law courses tend to be. Lots of reading and reasoning, and it's not for the faint-hearted. It's certainly not for the person that doesn't like to read.
That's
And
correct.
write.
That's correct. There's a lot of reading, a lot of studying, a lot of articles, a lot of research, and the biggest problem over there was that the majority of the exams were oral, so you cannot fake it, or you know it, the subject that the teacher is asking you, or you cannot, try to write something that it sounds that you know, but you really don't know, so you cannot fake it. Whereas you know it, or do you say, sorry, I cannot answer this question. No.
Wow. So yeah, you really need to learn, and I guess that's fair enough. You don't want to be represented by a barrister or solicitor that don't really know what they're doing. It's a position of high responsibility. So Johnathon, tell me one thing. So you mentioned that you had this really deep desire to study law. That also one of your highest priority in life was to honor God. And I'm wondering, have these two concepts, the attempt to become a lawyer and your desire to worship God, were they ever in conflict? Were they ever difficulties or challenges to your faith while at university?
Some people say that you cannot be a lawyer and be a Christian, and that's completely wrong. Because maybe because of the movies and everybody thinking
they
that
can have a reputation.
You have to lie to win. That's not correct.
Of having, I won't say lying, but having a very flexible understanding of truth, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. But again,
very creative.
But again, the judge knows about that, and the other lawyers, they know. So you cannot just pretend that something happened. No, it's impossible. And again, if you believe that something that your client or future client is saying to you, it goes against your principles and morals, you have to say no. And you can still be a good lawyer. The Bible is always talking about God as a just, and then we can just reproduce that in our lives, trying to uphold the truth and not just presenting the what is not true in a way that could be a true. That's not fair, and we are just not representing our God as a Christians when we do that. Just the opposite, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. So the first challenge would be in regards to the ethics, and say, you know what, I'm going to stay firm to my principles, to my values, to my beliefs.
Correct.
While pursuing a career in law. But were there more practical challenges? And you were talking to me about, because you grew up in a family that is part of the Seventh-day Adventist community, Seventh-day Adventist family, and
Yes.
naturally you would keep the Sabbath.
Yes.
I do not know, but I know in many countries, in many places, there are lots of activities, academic activities often that happen on the Sabbath, on the seventh day or Saturday. Was that also the case in Spain, or usually everything was kept from Monday to Friday?
Yeah, that was the biggest challenge going to that university. That university, all the Saturdays are elective. So you're going to miss a bit of all your knowledge because of those Saturdays that you are missing. But on top of that, all the tests, all the exams were on Saturday. So if some of the teachers were understanding that I was a Seventh-day Adventist member and that I would not go to do an exam on Saturday, they changed the day. But others, they said, sorry, it's not mandatory. So only the last one is mandatory for me to change it. So sometimes I had to take the whole, not the semester, but the whole year and to be tested in just one exam. And the exams were
so it was much harder than
way more.
Is that much
harder.
more content to cover?
Yes, that was. It was very difficult. And then again, it was only 3 questions, and then
these are the worst exams for those who know. the least number of questions in the exams, the harder they are.
Because they're testing your knowledge in general. It's not just like, oh, I'm lucky and this subject I knew. And I'm lucky that he's not asking about the other subject. At the end of the day, those teachers, they knew when you were trying to cover your no knowledge. So it was important for you to master that. And then in only 3 questions, it was very tricky to show him or her that you knew what you were talking about.
So how did it go for you? Were you able to keep the Sabbath while going through your degree, or at some point you did have to make some compromises?
I always keep Sabbath, God said Saturday is a special day, and it says, the commandment says, remember this day. It's a special day for us, you and me, to have this communion, to have this rest, this pause. And he will provide. And I always convinced that he would provide, despite that it was not easy at all. But I always have been surrounded of good friends. And they always helped me with those, because back in that time, you cannot record it. It was not online. We are talking about 1985, 86, 1990. Still, even internet was in the beginning of everything. So I always receive the documents, the papers from my friends, my classmates, saying, "Hey, you missed Saturday, and I'm preparing the notes for you," and that was a blessing. It was a blessing, but it was again a challenge. Some of the teachers said to me, "Why you wanted to come to this university if you're going to miss all the Saturdays and the exams?" And I always said, "Look, the reputation of this university is something that I was looking for." Because the more you learn, the better you can help other people. So that's why I choose this university, despite this fact that I knew that would be challenging for me.
And I'm wondering if that also played a role, your decision to be faithful to the 10 Commandments, to the Sabbath, specifically the 4th commandment. Because I heard a couple of times from young people that either grew up in Seventh-day Adventist families or maybe not, and they're learning about the Sabbath, and they say, look, I cannot afford not to keep the Sabbath because this is going to impair my career. I won't be able to go to work. Maybe they want to work in hospitality. Maybe they want to work in law, as you said. Maybe they want to work in the military or other careers where there is the expectation to work either after hours or perhaps on the Sabbath. So I'm wondering, did that impact negatively when you were going to choose your place of work? How did it work? Did you have to make compromises then? And I'm assuming that the answer would be no, since you haven't compromised at university. I would imagine that you would stick to your values afterwards as well. Can you tell us a little bit more about how it played a role in terms of trying to find a job?
Yeah, correct. Again, every commandment has the same value. If you say, okay, I at this moment I have to lie because it's important for my career, then what's the point of the commandments if it's not something that you can adopt and change your lifestyle? During all those 5 years, I was struggling with all these exams and sometimes, not being understood regarding my faith. But it played a fantastic role I want to share with you and with everybody here. The last 2 years, the university was offering us as students the opportunity to jump the time where you are intern in a law firm. So in those last 2 years, if you attend another special classes, you would be ready to start in a law firm from the day one. Once you finish your career. And I attend all those classes because I felt it was very important. And one of the teachers, I really respect him because of the integrity, the values. And I said, yeah, this guy is way good. And then I approached one day to him and said, look, I would like to be a lawyer. But for a period short of time, I would like to experience in one of the law firms here in this city. But the city of Pamplona in the north of Spain is only 150,000 citizens. So the limited spaces for all the lawyers that every year, finish their degree it's nearly impossible to find a spot, a job. And I said to him, look, it's only temporary because after that I want to study theology. but it will be good to do that practice as a lawyer. At the end of the day, I finished up working 9 years as a family barrister. But the point here is that I said to him, I would like to go to a law firm. If you know some of your friends or colleagues, please let me know. And then he said, okay, I'll find out. I will have a look, but I promise
to ask like a lecturer that you admire to help you,
yes,
start with that first placement, that first internship experience.
Yeah, and he said, I promise no thing. I said, okay, it's fine, I understand. And then the day of the graduation, he approached me and he said to me, I have a job for you. And I was like so excited. I said, really? And where? And then he said, in my law firm. And his law firm was one of the best, or probably the best, in Pamplona, in one of the best places in the city. And I was like, it's amazing. How come? And then I was surprised, but I was so surprised that I didn't say to him, hey, I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. If you are requiring me to work on Sabbath, I will have to decline because this is part of my principles. But I was so excited I forgot. So the first day that we were agreeing that to go to his law firm, I arrived there. I was so excited, but I said, look, I have to be, faithful to my principles. So first thing I said, it has been an honor and a privilege to be picked to be part of your law firm, but I want to say something first. And if this is not something that you're expecting, then thank you very much for the opportunity. And I said, look, I'm a Seventh-day Adventist member, and I won't work for you on Saturdays. Even sunsets on Friday, I will finish my job here. And he looked at me at the eye and said, I know. And I was like, how you know? And then he said to me, when you asked me to find a law firm, I was integrated. And then I went to the dean. And the dean said to me, well, he's one of the best students that we have. But one thing is for sure, he won't work for you on Saturdays. And then the dean explained why. So when I was looking at this lawyer, and then he said to me, look, that's what I wanted. A person with integrity that could be a very good lawyer for my firm.
Wow.
So after those 5 years of struggling with, upholding what you believe it's important in your life, it pays off. And I had the privilege of work for one of the best law firms in Spain for 9 years as a family barrister. And it was a huge experience. And even if I could think or imagine about this one, I would never reach that point. Everybody in my friends, my colleagues were like flabbergasted and say, how come you have reached this? We know that you're a good student, but how come you? And then when I explained to them, they said, oh, well, yeah, it's true. So,
yeah, and it's amazing that he didn't hire you in spite of your faith. No. He hired you because of your faith. And it's amazing because often I think Satan wants us to believe that we only have to lose when we are following after God's footsteps, after we are following after God's commands. But the reality is God is able to bless us even beyond what we could imagine. Yes. When we trust in Him, and He's the one who can place us in these yes. amazing locations.
The only thing that we have to do is trust in the Lord with all our heart. And don't think that your decisions or your way of understanding things is better than God's. God has a beautiful plan for you. And the only thing that you have to do is just following His lead. And when you abide by His principles, you will see the beauty of it. But you have to trust first.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Johnathon, thank you so much for sharing that encouraging, inspirational story. Maybe you are listening to us today, radio friend, and you were wondering, is it worth to keep with my integrity, with my spiritual integrity? And the answer is yes.